Hello everybody, how's it going? So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering manga chapter 1130. So this has been a very newsworthy week in the world of One Piece. It started last weekend. It even continued on through this chapter, which I thought was a very solid and very good chapter to kickstart the Elbaf arc. So it's official now. There's no more stalling. And obviously with the recent news that the One Piece anime is going on an indefinite hiatus, at least the Egghead Island arc in the anime is going on indefinite hiatus until April 2025, which I feel is a bold but epic move, which I think is going to once again raise the bar to even higher heights than even Wano produced. So we'll talk about that, but Oda himself is giving us the final chapter of October because he himself is going on a 2-week break following this chapter. So there's a lot to wait for, but there's also a lot to get excited about when it comes to One Piece. So we will start at the top with this chapter. Like I said, I thought it was a very solid and informative chapter, a great way to start off Elbaf. And we start off with a cover page with Yamato, and we actually got some level of intrigue because we think what the suspicious individuals show up. So Yamato and Otama and Shinobu are passed out from the kunai training, the ninja training that Otama was going through. I don't know why Yamato is passed out, or unless Yamato is actually faking being passed out. I don't know. We see somebody trying to steal the katana that Yamato was supposed to transport. But this creates a level of intrigue now because that was the main reason for Yamato on this journey. It looks like it's being kidnapped unless, like I said, Yamato is actually faking it, being asleep, just to catch this guy out. So we know he was going after Kunoichi's girls in Wano. We know Minatomo, the carpenter, went disappearing. So we don't know who this is. So I'm pretty sure we're close to finding out. So that's kind of cool. And hopefully get things moving as far as Yamato is concerned. Now we start off this chapter, and I actually appreciate this. Oda started off with the second half of the Straw Hats that we did not get to see in Lego Country. And that being Robin, Brooke, Frankie and Jinbei. We haven't seen Kuma or Bonnie, but we did see Lilf in this chapter as well. We see them talking with the Giants led by Dorian Bragi, and Frankie's like, yo, let's call off the search for now. And Robin explains it pretty well. It's like, yeah, Frankie says they're alive, but Robin pretty much points out it's okay, we'll just wait for them on Elbaf. Little do they know they're already there. But yeah, so I like that. So they're getting things moving, so enough of the stalling. So they're making their way to Elbaf. So I'll get to that by then because it's obvious why Oda did this and why Oda decided to have Robin in this group instead of the group with Luffy. So we switch gears from that and we cut to Luffy, who is literally on Elbaf, and Oda made a point to immediately show the architecture in comparison to what we saw in Lego Country and Lego Town, with the bricks being made out of Lego. Here you see what the structure of the buildings are made out of, completely tied of stone and brick. So yeah, this is legit. So this is actually Elbaf, and you see immediately the tree and as soon as you saw the tree in the background and you saw the rope bridge, the giant long rope bridge that connects to it, I immediately knew where Oda was going with this. So we even saw the castle, which I think is like a reference to, I'm guessing that was what Big Stein Castle in Lego Country was made out of, to reference this castle here, Big Stein Castle. So I don't know if that's the Big Stein Castle that belongs to the prince, or we'll come to find out 2 princes in this chapter. So that was interesting, but immediately it doesn't take long for Oda to kick things into motion here, because Nami immediately says, this place is so vast, it's making me dizzy. Now when it comes to Lego Country, the reason why that was so vast is because of all the huge mirrors that made it seem like it was never ending, but this is more legit. So everything's big, everything's been described as huge. You see the giant, huge, long rope bridge that we see 2 giants walking across. We come 2 giants representing the New Giant Pirates. We know Harry Dean is the leader of the New Giant Pirates. We found that out in the last chapter. So immediately we kind of get to find out they're not as welcome to intruders. So we get introduced to Gerd and Goldberg. Gerd, the girl, is the ship's doctor, and Goldberg is the cook for the New Giant Pirates. So that's actually pretty cool. And they actually go on to address not only about what Harry Dean thinks of the Straw Hats, but also what Rodo, the person come to find out, is the one that that basically treated the Straw Hats as dolls. So I was wondering what was up with that. It looked like we just skipped right past that and we moved on. So maybe we'll get an explanation as to what went on. But here, you see the changing shift. Like Oda got this chapter felt more serious than the previous 3 chapters that we've been given. So Gerd pretty much with the owl ask, hey, did you see a crow belonging to Rodo pick up a stowaway ship? Obviously we know that belongs to the Straw Hats, because why else would that be mentioned? And then they go on to say, we're meant to arrest intruders, but Rodo keeps smuggling intruders of his own. So that's very interesting for 2 reasons. One, Rodo actually forced the Straw Hats to go onto Elbaf. That's number 1. Number 2 is that we see Shanks interact with giants from Elbaf. So is Shanks immune to being an intruder? Or does he have like jurisdiction over Elbaf because he's a Yonko? Or does it have something to do with his Figurlang lineage? Well, that's something to keep in mind here, because I don't see the same treatment for Shanks. And we don't know where the kid's at right now. He could be locked up. He went under the water last time we saw after being demolished by Shanks. I predict we'll see Kid again in this arc at some point. But then they go on to say something interesting. And this is the first hint where we come to find out Loki is kind of hostile to the Giants of Elbaf. So they say he's the shade of Elbaf. He deserves that title even more. But we know he's the Prince of Elbaf. So that immediately kind of like reveals, okay, so maybe he's not as revered in Elbaf as we thought he was, because why would he be nicknamed the shame of Elbaf? But overhearing this, the Straw Hats pick up on that. Number 1, Luffy's trying to call out and grab their attention. Nami's trying to shut him up from preventing that from happening, because they just heard everything they said. They're looking for intruders. And meanwhile, you got Usopp and Sanji freaking out. Sanji's going gaga over Gerd being introduced. Now, I don't know if that's the same giant that we saw responsible for like collecting some of the books from O'Hara. Then we go on to Usopp, who overheard the fact that they are definitely on Elbaf. So there's no mistaking it now. There's no more stalling. This group is on Elbafs, but they're already public enemy number 1, being that the intruders and they're not supposed to be here. But again, Rodo, the person that treated them as dolls, caused this in the first place. So it's going to be interesting to see if this causes a civil war, considering where Dory and Broggy fit in. It looks like they overhear them, but obviously the Straw Hats are kept well hidden. So first off, we have some wolves in the background, it looks like, as they're trying to cross the rope bridge. Then Luffy goes on to say, you feel that? So he says himself playing with observation hockey. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp don't say a word. They don't. Zoro's like, Luffy, what's wrong? Luffy's like, you feel that? I'm getting goosebumps. So he's feeling something with observation hockey. Then he goes on to say, I heard something back in Lego Country. So it's interesting he heard something back then, but didn't say anything. But now he's like, okay, I gotta go check this out. So he goes, as if anybody's shocked by that. He goes down below. He actually drops to the bottom, it looks like, if you look at the geography of the Elbaf by the end of this chapter. So he jumps down, and this is kind of a mixed bag here, because you got Nami's like, hey, Luffy, where you going? Meanwhile, you got Usopp back there. He's like hugging onto a tree. It's like it says nothing to the Usopp, the brave warrior. I want you to keep mentioning this, because Usopp's been hidden in the background purposely. Even when they're crossing the bridge, Usopp's like, yeah, this is just a trial to prove that we're worthy warriors. Like he's insisting this is like nothing but a trial, but like Oda's highlighting this for a reason. Hopefully this is going to build up Usopp to do something epic pretty soon. Either way, we go from Luffy separate from the group to the other half of the Straw Hats back on the Viking ship, and this is where the Giants get the news read to them by Robin, which I actually appreciated. A couple of things jump into my mind after this scene. So first off, Robin's like reading out the news, what's going on here. So she's also put on the glasses shirt. I guess that's a shout out to Robin from Strong World, because that's the last time we saw Robin with glasses like this. So giant warrior pirates have awoken after a century-long absence. They set Egghead ablaze with Straw Hat Luffy, affiliating the Giants with Luffy already. So Broggy and Dory have received a new bounty of 1.8 billion, and that's between them both. Because if you look at the bounty posters, it's like Oda's trying to make it obscure, but it's like Bragi's got 1 billion, and it looks like Dory's got like 800 million. Considering their bounties before were like 100 mil. Again, I don't know why they won't both be at 1 bill, considering they're considered equals or rivals, but either way, and they're both captains. Robin goes on to mention that they're also blaming Luffy for Vegapunk's murder. Quote unquote, Morgan's News is blaming Luffy for the murder of Vegapunk. So they're changing the narrative, which is going to suit the government fine, because we know it was Kizaru and Saturn that were the cause of death. But then this is where something interesting happens. Robin notices there's an X on the arm of Luffy, on the forearm. So immediately people are like, has something to do with the alabaster insignia, the X that the Straw Hats had when they left Alabasta and gave that farewell to Vivi. Maybe that has something to do with this. But the fact that it's only shown on Luffy while he's in Gear 5th means it could be leading to something much bigger. And the fact that Robin's pointing this out, this is going to go somewhere, unless what's the point? Robin makes mention of this, so it's like, I'm not too certain, but that maybe this could be something. It's plus Robin says it seems familiar, so I don't know if it's referencing the 3D2Y insignia that Luffy had before pre-time skip. So there's a lot of callbacks here, or if it's something to do with Alabasta, or if it's something completely different connected to Gear 5th. Maybe it's the Mark of Freedom. I don't know. This was a very informative chapter to begin Elbaf. This is one aspect that people are going to be lingering on. Then we get the Law of Haradin, which was kind of interesting and surprising. So Bragi goes on to mention Haradin, that young whippersnapper. We heard he's a member of your Grand Fleet. He's under your umbrella. So that brat is known as the King's own kid. So technically he's the son of the king, or the previous king of Elbaf, which we know. So that technically means he's also the prince, but we also know there's Loki as well. So that means they're brothers by default. But we come to find out immediately one's favoured over the other. So he wanted to fetch you himself, but he has seniority, and someone's got to keep an eye out for trouble in Elbaf. And then this is where we get the reveal, like, oh, it started while our captains were missing. See, Elbaf has another prince. When he was born, they called him the Accursed Prince. He devoted himself to darkness, and a few years ago he was sentenced to crucifixion. He tried to flee, but they caught him. The entire group of the warriors of Elbaf banded together and caught him, and we see where he's at by the end of this chapter. So the fact that it took pretty much all the warriors of Elbaf is insane. And then Jinbei goes on to ask, his name wouldn't be, and obviously they're referring to Loki, but obviously to build up the tension here, he's like, they go on to say, you see there's a legendary devil fruit said to be passed down through the royal family. His desire to eat it was so great he ended up killing his own father, who was name dropped as King Harald, which technically means he's also the father of Haradin, since he is also the king's son. So then this other giant goes on to say, while describing Loki, we won't let him escape, because if he ever breaks loose, it'll be the end of everything. So he's a shame of Elbaf. So there you go. So, and it immediately cuts to Luffy, who's standing right before Loki, and this guy has Kaido vibes for days. Like, he has Kaido's aura, no doubt about it. Like, he's like wrapped up in chains. I'm assuming they're made out of Kurosaki, since he's a devil fruit user now. And he's like, yo, state your name, boy. Obviously, Luffy gets the classic response, I'm Luffy, the man who's going to become king of the pirates. And then Luffy's like, yo, where is this place? Who are you? And then Loki goes on to respond, this is the Warland, the mighty kingdom of Elbaf. They say it's the birthplace of war, which, by the way, is a great moniker. And then, I am the sun god who will bring about the end of the world. I'm getting Kaido vibes here. So, I'm the sun god who will bring about the end of the world, Loki. And then Oda finally reveals that gigantic tree. It's looking like Luffy and Loki at the bottom. You see where the middle part of the tree, and you see where that's where all the buildings are at. So Oda's using the entire Yggdrasil, the world tree, as the base of Elbaf, which is pretty ingenious. So Oda immediately is hitting the vibes with not only the Yggdrasil tree being the base of Elbaf, but also Loki and The description of him as well as his design matches Loki from Norse mythology pretty well, I would say. I can't say I'm shocked by that, but obviously it's progression. So a meeting between through one sun god to another, Luffy and Loki meet, and that's how the chapter ends. And obviously Oda is like wasting a little time, and like I said earlier, you can see how Oda has like set the tone. The moment we got introduced to the Straw Hats 1 Elbaf, you saw the tone shift. Compared to that to what we got with the mini adventure on Lego Country, yeah, it's night and day. And this guy had the entirety of Elbaf, the warriors of Elbaf, to like lock this guy down. Then I don't know how much of a boss he's going to be once he unleashes those chains. I don't know if Luffy's going to be able to set him free, because if they're made out of Kuroseki, there's not much Luffy can do. I don't know if Luffy would set him free, so that's basically the hook that Oda has you on for the next few weeks. Like I said before, Oda is taking a 2-week break himself, but that's how the chapter ends, and in my opinion was a very solid and informative chapter to start off Elbaf. So finally, like I said, no more stalling, we're finally here, and like I said earlier, it's interesting that now the splitting into two groups of the Straw Hats, we knew that was coming. The way that Oda went about it was kind of confusing, because we eventually led them to Elbaf. So, and the fact that Oda had Robin completely separated from the group that's on Elbaf is completely understandable. Like, you can see where Oda's go with this. If Oda had Robin tag along with this group, then Oda's already rushing the reunion between herself and Jagged Soul, which we know is incoming. So Oda's not going to blow through that immediately. So this is a way to build that up as Elbaf begins. So I appreciate what Oda did here. Again, I don't know what role Nami's going to have, considering she was the vocal point during the whole Lego Country saga. But now we've got past that, it's going to be interesting to see what role she has. Definitely Luffy's going to have a major role on what happens with Loki, considering he's the one that sensed Loki, even in Lego Country. So this marks the final chapter of October, and in my opinion, probably the best chapter in October. What was a very newsworthy chapter, we go to what was a very newsworthy week, and that leads into the announcement about the One Piece anime, at least the Egghead Island arc. I'll get into that in a second. Egghead Island anime been on a hiatus until April 2025. That is confirmed. There was a trailer that was dropped during the weekend. There was a big hype, and there's a big like build up to what this announcement was going to be about the 25th anniversary. We got that reveal in some way, in some capacity. I don't think anybody was expecting this, but anybody with a functioning brain and can think logically understands why they're doing this. So now the question becomes, why did they make this decision now? Why are they choosing to like have this indefinite hiatus until April? Obviously, the answer should be more than self-explanatory at this point. They also mentioned this was done to like give the anime a time to break, to recharge, to like set things in motion, to up the production quality for the second half of Egghead Island. I think it's important to note the last time we got an extended break of any of this nature was literally when the anime was forced to go on a break because literally the world was on shutdown due to the pandemic. That was almost 4 years ago, and I remember covering the episode when they did make that return. Do you remember the episode that followed after that? Maybe you guys have heard of it. It's called One Piece episode 1015, which people moniker as arguably one of the greatest episodes ever put together of One Piece in the anime. That covers a lot of ground. That's a subjective opinion. I don't know if I would call it number one, but it's definitely up there. But in my opinion, that was the turning point for where the anime had this wave of popularity that is never experienced before. Like if you look back at that moment, I think that's the turning point for where the huge shift and the boom of the popularity exploded for One Piece. The anime set the bar with Wano. This is a very strategic and, in my opinion, epic move, as well as being bold, because for years, almost 2.5 decades, One Piece has been the standard barrier for like weekly anime. There's not a lot of series that compare to it. If you compare the schedule, like it's insane just now thinking this is like an ongoing anime. This is not a seasonal anime. We don't get this anime once a year in a section of 24 episodes. That's never been done. So this is a first. So they're actually breaking grounds here, and they're actually flipping the script and actually changing things right before our very eyes. How we view One Piece going forward. Like, this has never been done before, so this is a strategic move. This is done to like give the animators time to rest, but also, in my opinion, focus on upping the quality. They are taking this long of a break should tell you that they're dead serious about how they're going to handle the second phase of the Egghead Island arc, which we should all, those who read the manga know, we know what's coming, and it's arguably the peak of the arc. This is also done for a chance for Oda to like pull ahead as far as the manga because of the schedule that Oda's currently on. We know about the live action season 2 and how much of a heavy hand that Oda's had on the previous 2 seasons. Nothing, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So that's another factor to take in consideration here, why they're making this move. But the number one priority, in my opinion, is to like up the production quality, give it more consistency. Like, for years, like, One Piece has had this stigma about the bad pacing, and we've had, don't make no bounds about it, like, the quality has gone up. It's not gone down as far as the production quality, but as far as the pacing, there's always been a bad stigma about One Piece. Like, even though I think that's been fixed over the past few years, like, but before we got to Wano, like, the pacing at some points were like horrendous. Like, but now they've upped the quality. The pacing isn't as bad. They're not giving us like pointless scenes unless it's like filling us with some content that actually Oda himself couldn't, but he wanted to add into the episodes himself. That is something that Egghead Island has done pretty well, and that is something I thought they did well with Wano. Being behind closed doors for 6 months, this gives them a chance to like animate these episodes, give us more consistency, and by the time we get to April, they'll be already working on the next wave of episodes that should carry us out throughout 2025. But by the end of next year, by the end of 2025, we may be looking at a case where when the second half of the Egghead Island anime is added and we get it fully animated and adapted, we may be looking at a situation, and I said this earlier in the year, but I think Egghead Island has the potential to, it will raise the bar even higher than what we got with Wano. That is my prediction. I don't think they're not going to just use this 6 months to just sit on their hands and do nothing. Like, no. They're going to use this time as best as they can. I want to make reference to this because this is something that Colleen Clinkenbeard mentioned over on Twitter in response to this. She's also the voice actor of Luffy in the English dub. I'll get to that in a second because that's another point. So she goes on to mention, this is such a good move. I know some of you are sad, but think long-term gains, end quote. So she's stating what a lot of people with any common logic is thinking right now about what this move means and what they're doing. There's no way you can sit back and say, oh, they're just introducing this because they're lazy. No. If you saw the trailer, they left off on the trailer like confirming the hiatus. If you look at the end of that teaser, they got visuals for the episode that follows, episode 1123, which is the episode that we'll get in April 2025. They have visuals for that episode, so that implies to me they may have some episodes already in the vault, ready to go for spring 2025. It's one we're not used to seeing as far as One Piece because it's never been done before. Like I said, the last time this happened, it was forced upon them because the world was on shutdown. This time it's done by choice. When you look back at this moment in 2025, will it suck to wait 6 months, half a year for this? Sure. But I think the end result will be, this will be worth it. I guarantee you. And let's not forget how they started this arc and started this year by revealing that trailer, the first initial trailer of Egghead Island, and we got the new animation and also how many people jumped down their throats and decide why they're doing this, like why are they changing the animation from what we got with Wano. Gee, I don't know, maybe they're trying to differentiate themselves for what Wano did. Just like then, nobody's questioning that decision anymore, are they? So I don't see anybody questioning this decision by this time next year, because I think the results be more than beneficial. It may blow a lot of other series out the water. They're working on new sound effects and new OST. By the way, I don't think they're going to add new OST to what we've already got. If the first half of what they gave us is in any indication of what we got in store for the second half of Egghead Island, plus 10, it's going to be insane to think about. Like, it's going to blow the first half out of the water. It's going to make it look like child's play, which is crazy to think about considering the episodes we've gotten this year. I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. Since we had like the voice actor of Luffy for the English dub come out give her 2 cents on this. Like, I agree wholeheartedly that this is done as a strategic move. It's a good move, and it's also it's a daring move because they're jumping out of the comfort zone, and not only are they're doing something they're not accustomed to doing, like taking an extended break, but also we're getting it on a new time slot once we do get the return of Egghead Island. So they're jumping out of the comfort zone to like up the quality. So I appreciate it because they're taking a chance, and I think it's going to pay off big time. I bring this up because a lot of people see that was another talking point that a lot of people brought up about, well, what's going to happen with the English dub now? Because obviously there's no episodes until April 2025. So what happens with the English dub? Do they catch up, and do we have somewhat of a simulcast once we do get episode 1123? I don't know. It's possible, but I don't think that's not the main objective here. It's to up the quality, give us more consistent episodes on a regular basis instead of giving us bad pacing and recap episodes. Also, it's done to give Oda a chance to pull ahead with the manga, because we don't know where this is going to land. The fact that Oda is already on Elbaf after playing Adventure in Lego Town should tell you everything you need to know. Like, this is what we're gearing up for once Oda does come back in November. So I don't know if it's going to be a simulcast between the dub and subbed, if they do catch up. The one thing I will say is, if they do catch up, and I don't know if you guys are keeping score, but I do, because I actually care. I actually appreciate both. So they're not far off from episode 1100, which arguably one of the best episodes of the year. They're going to get that dubbed. And the one thing I'm interested about is how they're going to handle the whole Emu episode, and because the sub did that justice, like with Emu's distorted voice. So plus they hid the voice actor for Emu in the credits, so we did get to see it. So I'm curious how the dub is going to handle that, and who's going to voice Emu. Are they going to pull something similar? But either way, it's also interesting to me that not only do we get One Piece returning in 2025, which already right now has already got you hyped up for what's to come for Egghead Island Part 2. Not only that, but also I suspect we'll get the One Piece remake in 2025. And we're definitely going to get the One Piece Season 2 live action all in 1 year. And I would not be shocked if we got a trailer for the One Piece remake anime. That would make sense, since it would have been a year since we got the announcement. And I also think we'll get a teaser trailer for Egghead Island Part 2 at Jump Festa. That is my prediction. I wouldn't be surprised if we get the live action Season 2. Yeah, we got a long wait to go before we get some new One Piece content, but I think the end result will be, it'll be worth it in the end. It'll suck to wait 2 months, but I promise you it'll be okay. And it's not like we're going empty-handed here. Like the Fishman Island arc remastered and reanimated, and they're condensing the episodes, so they're giving it to us while we have to wait until the Egghead Island Part 2 gets animated. So that's not something to sniff at anyway. Like I said, they're reanimating the episodes, so this gives me so they're going the Dragon Ball Z Kai route, where they're condensing the episodes and making it more canon, which I don't mind. Plus, like I said, the reanimating, they're not just relying on old animation, but like it's remastered new animation. They're condensing the episodes from 57 episodes to 21. If you do the math, if we get 21 episodes and you do the math, it should fall right into place right before we get the return of the Egghead Island in the anime in April 2025, in spring 2025. So we'll get through this. Let me know what you guys think down below. There's a lot to cover, not only through this chapter, but also through this past week. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.